Hello. So, fixtures are out then for Derby County this season. Obviously, a massive season for John Eustace. First full season as Derby County manager. Is he going to make a full season as Derby County manager? A lot of these things are things that are going to be questioned over the season. There's going to be peaks, there's going to be troughs, and there's going to be so many differences that's going to happen across the course of the season. We've already seen the introduction, the supposed introduction of the likes of Andy Vyman, Danny Bath, Carlton Morris. Obviously, Patrick Agyemang is another one that's now on the list. But how is this season going to go, and what is going to change for Derby? Because obviously, it was difficult last year, but there's obviously a lot more that need to be discussed. Obviously, I've not taken a look at the fixtures, so Cobra Kai in the comments thinks it's pretty rubbish. To be fair, have a very hard first month. Now, shall we send it on over to my other screen and let's take a look. Right, so we're starting off with Stoke City, Coventry, Bristol and Ipswich. To be fair to you, if I'm completely honest, Stoke and probably Coventry, to be fair, every game is winnable under John Eustace, in my opinion. I think, especially when you're looking at exactly what you're looking at in terms of what John Eustace has done in the past and things like that. You look at how many points he got with the team that we had last season, and I think it's a very, very different conversation to one of which that we had last year, obviously in that regard of with Paul Warne, obviously. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things that are going to be discussed in regards with that, in regards to like transfers and things. But obviously, heading into that game against Stoke, if we get in the players that we're rumoured to be getting in at the moment, the likes of Andy Vyman, the likes of Carlton Morris, Danny Bath, you look at someone like Patrick Agyemang, in my opinion, I don't think that game's going to be as difficult. I think it's a very, very good one. Obviously, starting off away from home, which is always a little bit of a killer. I love starting at home. I think it gets the season off to a really good go, and obviously you've got that home crowd behind you at the start of the season, essentially. So obviously Stoke City away to start off with. Difficult game at the Bet365, but we have an okay record when it comes to Stoke City, and I think that could be a good start, if I'm honest. Coventry and Bristol we know are going to be difficult. Obviously Bristol City, they have a really good squad, and if they can keep hold of their core, I think they'll be in a really good place next season anyway. Obviously with transfers as well, you never know what's going to happen. Coventry, obviously with Lampard, they were one of the best teams in the league that second half of the season, which is obviously always interesting to sort of look at and things like that. Obviously, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'm always intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. You reckon if we get players in, in all the players linked with Dolan, Morris, Agyemang, Travis, Vyman and Bath, can you reckon we make the playoffs? Now, it's one of those for me where I'm very sort of 50-50 on how Derby County are going to do this year. And I think it is all going to depend on the squad that we have come the end of the transfer window. Now, I think if we get Dolan, if we get Morris, Vyman, Agyemang, Travis, it's an excellent group. To completely honest, that is an excellent group for Derby County. It's brilliant. But I think then what you've got to do is you've got to see how long it takes for them to gel. Now, obviously, hopefully, under John Eustace, it's going to be quite quick and it's going to be sort of a simple and easy process, but we never know, and we don't know how long it's going to take for John Eustace's new ideas for this season to actually sort of change across the course of obviously pre-season, with them obviously being in for screening today. It will be interesting to see how quickly that develops and how easily we can see sort of changes. Now, obviously, Ipswich Town, we know that's going to be a difficult one with obviously the conversation with regard to parachute payments, their squad and everything. Obviously, a team we're battling with in order to get hold of Patrick Agyemang, but it'll be interesting to see how that one does develop into September. I think September's a very, very good-looking month for Derby right now. You look at West Brom, we've got a decent record with home and away. Preston North End, I'm not entirely sure where Preston are going to sort of fall this season at the moment. Obviously, last year wasn't the greatest of seasons for them, but it's, for me, a great one. Has Carlton Morris had his medical yet? Now, I'm not entirely sure. I was led to believe that he was having his medical upon return from his holiday. Now, I don't know when his holiday ends. I'd assume it'll be at some point this week. If not, it hasn't already happened, essentially. Wouldn't surprise me, to be quite honest with you, if he's at the Uni of Derby right now with the rest of the squad that are getting all their screening done. Obviously, back onto September. Wrexham, I think that's a difficult one to judge. Going to be that they've obviously got money to spend and they're in a really good position and they're on a high from the last few years, essentially. But it's going to be difficult to see where that one falls. We know they've got the money. We know they've got the backing. It's now just about how they sort of turn that around into actually playing in the Championship. We've obviously already seen they've let go of Paul Mullen. It'll be interesting to see how that develops over the next few weeks. Obviously, ending September against Charlton Athletic. I think that's a really good game for us. I think Charlton, very good side. Obviously, there's a lot for them to sort of develop on heading into this season. And obviously, Nathan Jones has much higher aspirations. October's a difficult month. Southampton, Norwich, QPR, Oxford, really, really difficult. Southampton, obviously, going to be one of the best teams in the division, whichever way you want to spin it. Oxford, if Rowett gets the right sort of players, I think he's going to be in a brilliant, brilliant position with that Oxford United team. You look at Norwich and QPR. Norwich is a bit 50-50 of where they're going to be, if I'm completely honest, but I do think they'll be a force to contend with this season. You look then at QPR. They've made some decent signings to start off the season, but obviously Marty Cifuentes has recently just left, so it'll be interesting to see how that changes. And then we head into, realistically, I think these next 2 months are the two hardest months of our season. Sheffield United, Hull City, Blackburn, Watford, Swansea, Middlesbrough for November. That's going to be really, really difficult to keep up with. It's going to be a very difficult season anyway. Obviously, John Eustace has to do what he's got to do. And there is going to be peaks and troughs across the course of this season. I think November is going to be one of them sort of low months where if we can pick up 8 points from November across the course of those 6 fixtures, I think I'll be happy. You look at the likes of December as well. You've got Leicester twice, you've got Birmingham, Sheffield Wednesday, who I think might be in a bit of trouble this season. Obviously, if you guys haven't done so already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel. But yeah, December and November, very, very difficult months. And I think realistically, the important thing for Derby County is not having that December, January slip that we've had a lot of the time over the course of the last few years, especially last season. You even then go back to seasons prior as well. It's been a common theme of Derby County's history, struggling in January and struggling in that sort of turnover period into the transfer window. A lot of the time I think it's because we don't make enough moves, but then I also think there's other parties at play with that as well. I've heard Jason Knight was at Moor Farm. You heard anything about that? Really interesting question. Now, what I've heard in regards to Jason Knight is more Premier League than any potential Derby move. Now, I'm not sure if he still lives around here or has a house around here or anything that he lives at. But I know that Derby County have always been big on letting former players come and do like pre-season workouts and stuff in the gym and things like that. Now, obviously, I don't know the situation in regards to Jason Knight and Bristol City. I spoke about it a few weeks ago on the channel in regards to interest in Knight from Everton, in the Premier League. And obviously, if Jason Knight is potentially on the move, that obviously is beneficial for Derby, but I don't know. I haven't heard that he's been at Moor Farm, but obviously with the circumstances regarding how Derby are with ex-players, it wouldn't surprise me if he'd popped in for a workout or to meet up with some of the staff that were here when he was there and things like that, because I know that sort of thing does happen. Obviously, back to fixtures then. January, Middlesbrough, Wrexham, Preston, Charlton, West Brom and Bristol City. Now, that's a difficult month in itself, but there's very winnable games in there. And I think realistically, something that I've learned, especially since John Eustace came in, is that I just think we can win any game now. Like, I look at Leicester and I think we can win it. I look at Southampton, I think we can win. You look at Ipswich, I think we can win. I don't look at teams in fear anymore. Whereas last season when I looked at the fixture list, I looked at certain games and I was like, we're getting nothing out of that. We'll be lucky if we get a point, things like that. I don't get that feeling right now in regards to that of John Eustace. Now, obviously, a lot of it does also come down to what players we bring in and things like that. Obviously, if you have any questions, drop them down in the comments. Cobra Kai, brilliant interaction from you. But it's one of those for me. I think Derby County are going to be in a brilliant place. And I think literally, like, I'm not going to say we're going to get promoted, we're going to get playoffs. I don't want to sort of give off that sort of idea. But with John Eustace, I genuinely believe anything is possible. Literally anything. It would not surprise me if come December, January time, it wouldn't surprise me if we were at least on the edge of the top 6. Now, obviously, there's difficult games in there. There's always going to be difficult games. And even some of the games that you look at and think, oh, a Charlton, a Wrexham, a game like that you think, oh, that's going to be a bit easier. It's not. And I think that's going to be the thing that a lot of people are going to have to get used to this season. Like we did last year, started off really strong, went through the season, and did it go as well as we wanted it to? Maybe not to start with, but as the season went on, and obviously we brought in John Eustace, I think it was absolutely phenomenal. Now, into February, Ipswich Town, Swansea City, Watford, Hull and Blackburn Rovers. Now, we all know Blackburn's going to be a difficult game, home and away, because of obviously the relationship between Eustace and so on. But the interesting thing in regards to those other games in that month is every single one of them is winnable. Swansea's winnable, Watford's winnable, Hull's winnable. I'm not saying playoffs. I think I've said this a few times, but genuinely, if we can get in the right sort of players, I know we still need a couple of wingers, still need a couple, probably, if we get Agyemang and Morris, we're probably all right in strikers. We need some midfielders, but I'm very positive about this season, if you can't already tell. But definitely, there's some interesting games. March is going to be a very interesting one as well. Sheffield Wednesday, Millwall, Pompey and Birmingham City. Very, very good games in there. I think, realistically, a lot of you may agree with me, some of you may not, but in my opinion, I want to get to the end of March and be pretty much safe, if I'm completely honest. I wanted that this season as well, but I want to know, I don't want to have to worry through those final 5 or 6 games of the season like we have this season. It was difficult to go through. The whole season was difficult to go through, but I think we've got a very good chance this season. I reckon we finish 5th if we get in the right players. Do you know something? Wouldn't disagree, in complete honesty. I think if we can get in a right number 10, another sort of sitting midfielder, I'm not saying we're going to get Lewis Travis, don't get me wrong, but if we can get a sitting midfielder like Lewis Travis in, I think we're going to be in a really good position. Honestly, there's so many people that are obviously stressing about transfers and the squad and things like that, but for me, I think we've got a really good base to add on to. And you look at bringing in someone like Carlton Morris, for me, I know a lot of people look at it and go, what did he score? What was it, 8 goals last season or something? And I think that if you add 8 goals to our team of what we had last season, that's brilliant. You look at someone like Andy Vyman, a lot of people are turning their nose up at that, but Andy Vyman to Derby County, a brilliant move in my opinion, had more goals and assists than anybody other than Jerry Yates in Derby County's team, and he only started 15 games. Now, just got another one in. Nice festive fixtures. Start is mixed slightly towards the harder end, but some certainly winnable games. Hopefully we don't need to win the last game of the season. Exactly what I was just saying, Rams Fan TV. Got to get through, in my opinion, if we can get through to March and be pretty much there or thereabouts in terms of safety. A bit like Preston last season, really. They got to I think it was mid-March and were 12, 15 points off the relegation zone, that sort of safety barrier, and somehow managed to keep themselves in it. And brilliant for them, obviously. But it's one of I don't want to have to be dealing with that. I want to get through. I want to make it through. We have a really good opportunity this season, in my opinion. Obviously, whatever happens in terms of investment, we don't know right now, but it could be. If we get investment, realistically, we could have investment now, to be completely honest with you. But if we have investment done, dusted, and able to bring in sort of good players in the January window, a good set of moves this summer, we could genuinely, with a lot of people talking about playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised, but ultimately, I'm not going to turn around and say we're going to get playoffs. I'm going to be completely honest about that. I don't know if we will or if we won't. Now, obviously, April, Coventry, Stoke, Southampton, Oxford, Norwich City, QPR and Sheffield United. You look at that end, and that is the reason why I do not want Derby County to be battling down the bottom towards the end of the season. Coventry are going to be up there, Southampton are going to be up there, Norwich probably going to be up there, Sheffield United are going to be up there. It's going to be very, very interesting. I think some Derby fans are being ridiculous, slating Wyman and Morris. Morris 15 GA in the Prem, before that 28 GA in the Champ. Wyman, with his minutes, only played a total of 15 games. Yeah, exactly what I was just saying. Wyman, I think, is a brilliant deal. Genuinely, I think it's outrageous. Carlton Morris, I think, is insanely good deal, especially if you look at the reported fee. There's a rumour going around at the minute that it's £500,000. Now, I don't know how true that is. I'm not going to turn around and say it is or it isn't, but £500,000 for a striker that's pretty much got, what, 50, 60 goals and assists over the course of the last 3 seasons? Yes, please. Like, bring him to me. Yes, thank you. Andy Weimann, if we get 20 games out of him, 10 goals or 7 goals or whatever, I think that's a successful move. I really do think that's a successful move. Now, obviously, everyone will have their sort of own opinions about it, and that is completely fine. But I think a lot of people need to be a bit more sort of understanding of the position we're in. We don't have millions and millions of pounds to spend, but what we do have is a really good manager who's going to be able to help progress these players, even towards the latter end of their careers. I think Fozzie was probably one of our best players towards the back end of the season. I think even someone like Nat Phillips, who for the start of the year couldn't really get in the side, and then all of a sudden was one of our best players. Morris market value before last season was 12.5 million. Well, yeah, I was looking on Transfer Market the other day, and he was valued at something like €6 million or something like that. Now, I obviously don't know what the fee is. I'm not going to turn around and act as if I'm some sort of journalist or know what I'm talking about, but it's one of those for me. If we've got him for £500,000, that for me is an outrageous deal. Now, don't know why fans are complaining exactly. 100% completely agree with you. Obviously, if you're new to the stream, brand new around here on this channel, daily Derby County content will get me words out eventually. If you haven't done so already, subscribe, hit the like button, turn on the notification bell. It's been a journey, and you guys have been brilliant with it. Now, obviously, it's going to be an interesting season. It really is. It's going to be a really interesting one to sort of get our heads around. 8 goals in a poor Luton side with least chances created in the league is very good. Yeah, exactly. You look at some of the chances we created last season. Carlton Morris, I'm not being funny, you look at some of those headers that Jerry Yates missed, some of the sitters Jerry Yates missed, we'd be absolutely, genuinely, we'd be flying. Like, I'm not even joking. I think last season, if we had Carlton Morris, he's on 15 goals by the end of the year, without a shadow of a doubt. Like, it is going to be interesting to see, obviously, how it develops over the course of the next few weeks. Obviously, if I do just jump on over to Twitter now, see if anything is going off. I doubt that, if I'm completely honest, I doubt anything would kick off today. I doubt we'll get any sort of moves in terms of the transfer window or anything like that. But it's one of those for me where certainly, if you look at sort of the players we're looking at, the players we're potentially getting in, and obviously, yeah, Jerry Yates could have had 20 last season easily. It's going to be a very, very good transfer window. Yeah, 7 open goals, 4 headers. You even think about Matt Clark. If he and Matt Clark had communicated against Burnley, like, that's another goal to his tally. What did Jerry Yates end on last season? Was it 11, 10 or 11? Let's go and have a look. Let's take a ganders. Jerry Yates. He is. Where is he? Where are you? Yates has disappeared. Jerry Yates back at Swansea City. Last season, 10 goals in 42 appearances. Yeah, easily could have had 20 if you look at the missed opportunities. But obviously, what else can you do, really? Put the chances there for him. I think a lot of it was down to the style of play. We're playing target man ball to a 5'9", 5'10" striker. It was never really going to work. But it's just one of those. Well, that is going to be it for me, folks. Obviously, brilliant start, in my opinion. Obviously, the fixtures aren't going to be easy, no matter which way you look at it. It's going to be a tough season. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard work. But if anybody can do anything, it's John Eustace. We've seen what he's done with Blackburn, saw what he did with Birmingham. Like, I'm very excited for this season. And if the transfers go the way that we're all anticipating, and we bring in the players that it looks like we're bringing in at the moment and being linked with and things like that, I think Derby County are going to be in a great place. Now, obviously, for those of you who weren't able to catch this live, thank you for watching. Thank you for jumping in. Those of you in the chat, thank you for jumping in. Thank you for getting involved. Rams from TV, Cobra Kai, brilliant bit of interaction from you guys. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining. If you haven't done so already, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you with my next video, probably tomorrow, but I'll catch you in that one. Bye-bye.